All right, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Again, thank everyone for their patience. I will tell you, it has been a week and it has been a day trying to get some of this organized. We've had travel challenges and a lot of other things that have affected this session this morning, but it has not affected the quality of the panelists that are here and the content that we're going to be presenting. And I'm very excited to be standing in front of you this morning. My name is Brad Bentley. I am the president of Fastport. We are one of the many stakeholders in an initiative that was launched a little over or less than a year ago, I should say, called Task Force Movement. So we're going to be talking about that this morning, and you're going to be hearing from my distinguished panel in just a few minutes. I think for my opening remarks, what I really want to say is what a difference a year makes. 1 year ago at this show, in this very room, Fastport helped facilitate one of these education sessions, which was led by our apprenticeship team, Dave Harrison, and all the work we had with the Department of Labor. And what we were really reporting on was a recent initiative through the Biden-Harris Trucking Action Plan. It was a 90-day challenge to address workforce shortages in the supply chain. And we talked about all the companies that had stepped up, what the industry had done to galvanize, and how we were trying to move the needle of what everybody knew at the time had become even more critical because of the pandemic. But 1 week after the truck show last year, the follow-on movement for that needed to continue. So at the White House, I think it was April 4th, the one-year anniversary that's coming up next week, all the stakeholders were brought together on the lawn there at the White House. We had Nikki's boss, Secretary Buttigieg, Patrick Murphy, who is the chairman of this, and President Biden kick off Task Force Movement. Now, I will tell you, we had a great video queued up here, 8 minutes and 3 seconds worth, and with some AV challenges and internet and everything else, we also found out a few minutes ago that that's not going to play. So, but it was a great day. What it really represented was how critical this industry was moving forward, and it also showed the fact that you had trade associations that had come together, you had industry come together, nonprofits, veteran service organizations, et cetera, and that needs to continue because the transportation sector is now in a war for talent with other industries, and you're going to hear a lot about that today from some of our distinguished guests. I'm stepping in for Patrick Murphy. He is the chairman of Task Force Movement. He has spoke at this event many times in the past. Patrick's family history is from the transportation sector. Many of you know him because he was the first Iraqi war veteran to be elected to Congress. After that, he also served as the former Undersecretary of the Army and has been very active in a lot of circles. He's based up in the Pennsylvania area where some of the training is now taking place for some new initiatives that we're doing for Task Force Movement. So Patrick sends his regrets for not being here, but we also had about a minute and a half video that was queued up from Patrick, and what you were going to hear in that was the number of stakeholders that have been brought together since this time last year. It's over 100. And again, that represents a lot of different elements of the industry. He also mentions the amount of money that have been raised that's all been earmarked for training to bring more people into this industry. And a lot of that is coming from the veteran space, so you're going to be hearing about a couple of those initiatives this morning. But I want to get right into it so we can leave some time, hopefully, at the end for Q&A. That's only one slide. We would need about 5 or 6 of those to show all of the partners that have signed on for Task Force Movement since this time last year. I chose this one because there's a lot of recognizable names. A lot of these companies are actually exhibiting here at the show. They're having to work their booths right now. They're over there trying to get more drivers and mechanics and so forth. But it has been a galvanization that's really come together. And from my side of the house and Fastport's contributions to this, I think industry is the most important part of what of the stakeholders that are involved with Task Force Movement. But what you've really seen is a lot of public-private partnerships. There's been a tremendous amount of activity done at the federal level through the Department of Transportation. So I want to start this off. I'm going to allow everybody to go down the line, introduce themselves real quick, and then I'll start it with Nikki talking about some of the things that's happened with DOT, specifically FMCSA. She is the government lead for that with Task Force Movement, and I know you've got a lot to talk about. So Nikki, we'll start it with you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nikki McDavid. I am currently the Senior Policy Advisor to our Administrator, Robin Hutchison. Previous to that, I served as the Federal Motor Carriers Chief of the CDL Division, and I will hold the rest of my points until we come back. I'll pass it on to the next person.
So I actually want to kind of break rank here a little bit. I want Adam to introduce Major General Davis because I know they served together back in the day.
Thanks very much. First of all, it's an honor to be here and sit next to my battle buddy, Major General Johnny Davis. Johnny and I have served together from young captains to colonels, and he's continuing to serve. And every time I'm with Johnny, I get fired up because he's motivated, high energy, and I get inspired by him. But there's no finer infantryman in our Army today, and no finer leader leading the next generation of our military and our Army particularly than General Davis and what he's doing as the Commanding General of U.S. Army Recruiting Command. A native of Milwaukee, as a matter of fact, Nikki met him in Milwaukee. So anybody here from Milwaukee? No. There we go, we got one, Johnny. Native of Milwaukee, listen, a true Army family. His wife, Stacy's remarkable, but he has 6 children, and all females, all right? So it's a rough house here. And little Penny, my little partner over there. But, he's commanded at every level, like me, from platoon all the way to, a senior level at the Commanding General of U.S. Army ROTC, Recruiting Officer Training Corps, and now at USAREC, U.S. Army Recruiting Command. The Army is in good hands with a general like this and a leader like this, and I'm just proud to sit on this panel. Thank you for joining us today, Johnny, very much.
No, thanks. So I guess I don't have to say anything.
You don't.
But, thanks, Adam, and it's a pleasure to be here. I couldn't say no, and of course, our friendship has gone back over 25, 26 years, so very much appreciate those days. I would tell you it's good to be here, good to share what I know in this current challenging recruiting environment, and just give everyone a heads up of what I see on the ground as the Commanding General. So it's a pleasure to be here. Every week, I think last week I was in 3 different states, and now I'm just down the road. So it's good to be here with you this morning. So stuff like that.
Thank you. So Adam did not tell everyone that he is currently with Hiring Our Heroes. He also, in his military career, finished out starting the Soldier for Life program for the U.S. Army. But we're going to talk a lot more about Hiring Our Heroes and why they have worked with Task Force Movement. But you mentioned Milwaukee. So I had the pleasure a few months ago to be there with one of our other big stakeholders in Task Force Movement, which is the American Legion. Yes. It was their annual convention. They do a credentialing summit as part of that. Major General Davis was the keynote speaker that day at lunch. And I was really moved by what he said that day because he was changing jobs at the time, about to rotate into being the commander of USAREC. And we know some of the challenges that are out there. So General, I'd like to start with that. If you could tell the audience a little bit, set the tone for us today about the ever-widening gap in the military-civilian divide and the fact that we may be in danger of losing our all-volunteer force.
Well, it's certainly a challenging market. Thanks for the question, and thanks again for what you do each and every day. So when you think about the challenging environment, and there's a few data points I could share, but let me take you back. Let me give you, my example. A young kid from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My grandfather was a World War II vet, lived on the north side of Milwaukee. And what I remember, spending time with him in his garden, it was most of the many, stories, the camaraderie. And that's what really connected me with him and wanting to serve our nation. Now, why do I say that? Because to the left and right in our neighborhood in north side of Milwaukee, and across the street and 4 doors down, they were all World War II vets and Korean vets. And so that brought this whole community together to the point where I remember as a young 5, 6-year-old in the early 70s, they would hold block parties and they would all come out, and then they would, you know, on 4th of July, they would all wear their uniform, and then we'll do some a cake cutting. I mean, they'll shut down the entire street. Think about that today. So fast forward, I take you to Austin, Texas. I was the Chief of Staff of Army Futures Command, and I lived inside the city. I didn't live on a military installation. I was the only military family in an entire neighborhood. So that's the difference than what you see in the past. So right now, only about 1% serve, and that number is dropping each and every year. And so the population that are serving are most likely connected to men and women who have served. Why? Because they're exposed to the military environment, and they're aware of all of the things needed to succeed. So that's that 1% and that smalling population leads us to believe the following. There is a war for talent. Everyone's fighting for that same talent, that 17 to 24-year-old who is top physical shape, graduated from high school, did very well. Everybody wants that talent. So when you look at that, and they're thinking about what they want to do, first and foremost, there's little to no awareness. I mean, I've talked to many 17 to 21-year-olds, and you'd be surprised what they tell me, what their thoughts are on military service. 75% are not aware. So I was in Indianapolis for Future Farmers of America. I spoke to a number of youngsters, and I said, hey, tell me your thoughts on service in the military. And these are 100% correct. Hey, sir, I heard that if I don't graduate basic training and advanced training, I don't get paid. So where'd that come from? That's not true at all. Or I can never own a pet in the military for my first 10 years. I said, where did that come from? Nor can I own a car for a year. So I don't know where this information is coming from, but this is something that's really alarming. And that's the type of information going through our youngsters' mind. But, I mean, I can stop right there. How about those who never considered service? 56%. And of those who want to serve throughout our population, only about 10% of that are propense to serve or really have some linkage to someone in the military. But there's so much. This is all coming together over years, and now we're seeing this manifest itself within the market. So, yeah. I mean, that's a good question.
Great
so
answer.
I'll stop right there.
So Adam, I want to go to you next so we can get into the weeds a little bit on some initiatives specific to transitioning service members and the Drive for 500 program that occurred with Hiring Our Heroes as a stakeholder for Task Force Movement.
Yeah,
Talk a
sure.
bit about that.
Sure. I'll go back a step and talk about what General Davis did for just 1 second, because I think it absolutely feeds into why we do what we do here today, especially me in my post-transition life, though. But we know the skills, the tangible and the intangible skills, at least I do, and many of you do here today, that our young men and women who raise the right hand and want to serve our country get. What we want to do is change the narrative and tell the companies, which we're trying to do here today, and tell all those employers about it. Many of those employers understand the value of those service members. Many employers understand that, as General Davis said, there is a war on talent, and one of the best places to go is to the military and get that talent. We know that you've got skills in IT, and you've got skills in all kinds of things, right, that are a great segue to that. So they know that a college degree is not always mandatory, and the military is the best technical training in the world, right? Couple that with leadership, right, Bill? And that's why they come to us. So now you've got organizations like mine at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business federation. Hiring Our Heroes is the foundation nonprofit arm of that, the 501c3. And we are connected to not only those grassroots connections at the community level with the local chambers, but at the large level. We've got over thousands of companies that have stood up and said, I'm not only veteran friendly, I'm veteran ready, and I want to connect into that talent because I know. So we provide them access to that talent. So what this is, as General Davis said, I think we need to change the narrative, and he's doing a great job, and you all those recruiters out there are doing a great job, that the Army is a breeding ground for success post-transition. And those companies are looking for you, whether you serve 3 years or you serve 30 years, right? And that's the narrative. Join the Army, join the military, earn a trade, earn leadership, and you will land a job with companies like you. So if you're out here and you want to hire veterans, we want to connect with you. So let's talk about the Drive for 500 in the trucking industry for just a second, though. You know, that was a partnership with Hiring Our Heroes through Indeed, who gave us $5 million, to be honest with you, for scholarships, right, to put them through CDL, Class A licensed drivers training, right? And we used another company, the gentleman was here, the president, my Ranger buddy, Chuck Hodges, from Troops into Transportation. That initiative, it caught fire, to be honest with you. And every one of those people, we graduated 500, and every one of them has a job. And before they even went into the training, they all had 5 to 7 jobs, because the trucking industry, obviously, there is a shortage on that talent, and you need it. So we are, I'll skip there and talk way to the future, I guess, but I'll give you a teaser here that we're looking to grow that exponentially, and we'll ask for your help if you'd like to join us. But we are going to do a phase 2 of that operation. But that's what we're about.
So you see the passion that's represented in that, and obviously trucking is a good landing place for those transitioning service members, military spouses, and for veterans. But one of the other key pillars beyond military hiring that was identified early for task force movement was registered apprenticeships. That was coming off the success of the 90-day action plan that had been put in place by the administration. Fastboard has been directly involved with that. And I know that FMCSA has also come out in the past year with an apprenticeship program. So Nikki, if you can hit on that for us, and also talk about some of the other initiatives that y'all been working on most recently.
Okay, thank you, Brad. And back to me, it's just an honor to be a part of Task Force Movement for Trucking. Just a little background about the task force. There were 4 different groups. There was a group from academia, a group that represented the veteran service organizations, a group that represented the motor carriers, and then there was a group that represented government. So for academia, that group's charge was to try to determine how do we get more military personnel into the academia space? How do we get them training to become truck drivers or into the trucking industry? The VSOs, the veteran service organizations, their charge was to determine how do we educate VSOs about these opportunities out here for the military. It was interesting when we launched the under 21 military CDL program. It was just astonishing to me how many of our military personnel did not know about the program. We called the National Guard, we called the reserves, we called different bases, and there was not too many people knew about it. So one of the things that, as the government, we have to definitely do a better job of educating everyone out there. You know, we thought that with our under 21 military pilot program that, you know, drivers would be knocking down our doors, but that didn't happen. And then there was a government group, and I was the lead for the government group. So getting back to the programs that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has to aid veterans and military personnel to get into truck driving jobs. I have a question first. How many military personnel do we have in the audience? Okay. How about their families?
At least 2/3.
Okay, outstanding. So how many people out there know that FMCSA has a military driver program? Oh, that's good to see. A few of you out there do. So let me just share with you, and I hope you pass this information along to your family and your friends, but we have a skills test waiver. The skills test waiver allows it allows military personnel who have the requisite, that meet the requirements in our regulations to actually go to the DMV and not have to go through the skills test for a CDL. That is waived. We have a knowledge testing waiver as well. So if military personnel, if they meet the requirements, they could go to the DMV, and they do not have to take the knowledge test for a CDL. And if you meet both requirements for the skills test waiver and the knowledge test waiver, you can actually go in and exchange your military license, do an even exchange where you do not have to do any skills testing or knowledge testing, and you can get a CDL. And so I wanted to share that. That's a program that FMCSA has. I mentioned the under 21 military CDL pilot program that was running for a few years. We didn't get much participation, which was very surprising to us, but now we have our Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program, and military personnel can definitely join that pilot program. They would have to sign up through a sponsoring motor carrier. That program is still open. It's open to military personnel. But one of our biggest programs, which I'd love to talk about, is our Commercial Motor Vehicle Operator Safety Training Grant Program. It's a $3.2 million program that FMCSA manages, and we actually provide money to truck driving schools. The truck driving schools will take this money and they will actually pay the tuition for military personnel and their families to get CDL training. It's free to the driver, it's free to the military families, their spouses, their children, and this is a service that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration provides to our military family. We also take that money and we've expanded it in the last couple of years where we are looking at underserved communities as well. The grant program is $3.2 million, and we can train about 1,000 drivers per year. And so we encourage truck driving schools to apply for this money so that they can train the military. And the panelists here have already talked about how dedicated military personnel are, how well trained they are. And so the motor carrier is getting, bang for their buck. So also, I just wanted to mention our Women of Trucking Advisory Board. We do have a Women of Trucking Advisory Board. It goes by WOTAB. And what that group is, and it was required under the bipartisan infrastructure law, is for a task force to be formed. And this task force was created to come up with recommendations for our administrator, for our organization, to see why women do not join the trucking industry. About 7% of truckers are women, and we want to see why is this number so low, and the recommendations are going to help us to increase women in that space. And we're looking forward to the recommendations. The recommendations should be out in a couple of years, and so we'll determine, what's keeping women from going into the trucking industry. So we're looking forward to those. Those are a few of the programs that we have. The WOTAB is not necessarily connected to military, but it's something that we're doing to increase the number of drivers in the trucking industry.
And Nikki, I like that acronym. Much easier to say. I see Barton Garcia, who runs a lot of the community college schools. He's executive director of the National Association of Publicly Funded Truck Driving Schools at NAPFTDS. So WOTAB's going to get a lot of traction just because it's easier to say than that. Before we move on, I do want to give a shout out. Sarah Lee with Waypoint Vets is also down front. Army veteran, and I've noticed is that she is continuing to serve because she brought coffee up here to the panelists, and she stayed
Thank you, Sarah.
branch specific. She took care of the Army guys. So, go to that.
Her story is remarkable.
But Adam, I want to circle back to you. This was before Task Force Movement started. I remember you called me not long after the evacuation from Afghanistan, and it was specifically to help a translator, an interpreter, that had helped our military, had been part of the evacuation, had settled in the state of Maryland. They were trying to find employment, and they ended up going through CDL school, and we were able to get that individual an opportunity with DM Bowman, a very established carrier in the area. And while that's a great success story, I know what Task Force Movement is trying to do in scale. And there's a new program that I would like for you to talk about specific to Afghan refugees and some of the great work that's being done up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania and beyond. Adam?
Well, thanks. Brad, a personal thanks. So as soon as this gentleman reached out to me, I knew exactly who to call. And I think everyone in this room knows Brad and his passion, what he'll do. He literally picked up the phone, and within 5 minutes, he had this gentleman interviewing a job, okay? So that's just one example of what we can do and collectively can do for the industry and for just service members and those who served alongside of us, like these Afghan interpreters, as General Davis and I have witnessed firsthand. But they also deserve an opportunity. So what we've done is we've created a collaboration Task Force Movement has with Bucks County Community College up in Pennsylvania. Some of y'all might know it. They did a pilot program. They got some funding from the Justamir Foundation that provided the scholarships for the CDL. So they've taken 30 so far, but there are 15 that have graduated. So 15 Afghans have it's called Afghan Open Road, right? Afghan Open Road. It's a pilot program, like I stated. 15 Afghans who have decided that that's the career path they'd like to get. They've graduated. They're all in the process of now being partnered for job opportunities. I think to date, frankly, a couple have gotten the job, but the rest are in the pipeline. So I'm sure it'll be successful. And then there's a second pilot of another 15 that is about to begin. So the intent is to grow that to scale. That's going to go to another additional 7 states here in the near future, and then continue to grow. I mean, as I sit next to, a former commander in Afghanistan, General Davis, and myself, who's been to Afghanistan a couple of times, that is actually an incredible population that is near and dear to our heart, but it can really help our industry, the trucking industry, the transportation industry, in a lot of ways. They have the skill set, they have the desire, obviously got to be able to speak some English and read and write, but they're overcoming most of those hurdles, and they'll just be a great asset for yours. But so, I guess my last request is a call to action. If you are interested in being a partner company in that or any of the work that we do at Hiring Our Heroes, I guess shameless plug, but please come on up, and we'll talk. Thank you.
And I think that's a good segue. I want to go back to General Davis. Again, I heard you speak in Milwaukee. You were about to step into that role at USAREC. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience have seen the headlines as far as the recruiting numbers. We know that you have a tremendous challenge ahead of you. We know you're going to be tip of the spear, though, and you're going to attack this head on. But people in this room can influence that. Mm-hmm. We've got a big industry here. I'm kind of surveying people that I recognize in the audience. You've got associations represented, original equipment manufacturers, suppliers, some of the biggest trucking companies in the industry. How can this industry continue to move forward to help you in your role, and why is that important for the front end of the funnel? And I'll let you answer that, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Brad, and that's a great question. What I would ask everyone is, first of all, never underestimate your impact as an influencer on that next generation who will lead our nation. They will listen to you. They may not, come across that way, but trust me, everything you share with them, they are listening to, because it's so powerful to hear your guidance, what you've learned as you grew into a mature adult and are leading our nation. So please take the opportunity to share advice with this young population that's up and coming. For industry, I would always share that, in all employers, hire our veterans. They are wonderful. Compared to what I see each and every day, these are hard-working men and women, highly trained, motivated, professional, team players, quality, leaders, resilient. All of these things I will share with you as you consider someone who has served, because I think that investment is going to pay huge in terms of return on investment for your companies. These are wonderful men and women. I see them every day. I sign, at this level with 33 years in, I sign a lot of retirement awards for those who've served 20, 25 years. And they are, just like everyone else, they're trying to figure out, what's next. And I just want you to be there to meet them, help them through that transition, and help them continue on in the next phase of their lives. So they're out there, they're wonderful. It's interesting as I see the next generation grow. So as you know, I have six children. Oldest daughter, she just redeployed from Africa. She's a field artillery officer, cannon, one of the first ones to be in the cannon force. And she loves it, can't get enough of it. And she is just redeployed from Tunisia and Morocco just a few days ago. And she's had 10 years of service. My second daughter joined
And a graduate of West Point, right?
Yeah.
Come on, I'm proud of that, dude.
Second daughter, Marine, served, enlisted in the Marine Corps, Paris Island, wanted to change it up. And again, everyone has their own story and everyone's different. But, she did 6 years, met her husband, another Marine, while in D.C., and used her transition, used her GI Bill, and just graduated from the Citadel. So not a penny did she spend on her education. So they're all wonderful. What I see in terms of this next generation, they're smart, they're committed, especially if they serve. Let's continue to invest in them. So thanks, Brad, for that. That's a great question.
I agree.
So I know we're bumping up on our time here, but I want to talk about what's next. And before I go down the line with our panelists, I do want to mention a couple things that are actually happening here at the truck show, stuff that you can do short term if these initiatives are important to you. Over in the West Wing Pavilion, Fastport's booth, on display there is the beautiful truck that you see on your screen. We have a program, this is the 8th year for it, where toward the end of the year, from the steps of the U.S. Chamber, we award the keys to a new Kenworth truck to a deserving veteran who's come into the industry within the last couple of years. I'm proud to say this year, this is the 100-year anniversary of Kenworth. They've created a special edition truck, a T680 and also a W900, and the truck that you see behind me on the screen is the one who's going to be awarded to a deserving veteran this year. It's also out front. I don't think they're doing it today, but maybe tomorrow when the weather's better. For riding drives, you'll be able to see that. But we have the first special edition truck that went to a fleet over in our booth, which is next to the Veterans and Trucking display. Also about a dozen or so other fleets over there with special military wrapped trucks. So I'd encourage you to come by and see that in the West Wing Pavilion. We talked a little bit about apprenticeships and some of the work that FMCSA is doing. Again, Fastport was designated as the accelerator for the Biden-Harris administration's 90-day challenge for their trucking action plan. We have been the intermediary for the transportation sector going back to 2016, and our entire team that works on those efforts are also over in the West Wing Pavilion. So I would encourage you to come over, have conversations with Dave and Gina and Hannah, Scott, some of our other team members who are here. Dave's the former airborne guy waving his hand in the back, so please come see us over in the West Wing Pavilion if you can as well. Next week, okay, I mentioned Task Force Movement and the fact that it was launched on April 4th last year. So I know one of the things in the short term for Nikki is I'll see her next week in Washington, D.C., and I'll see Adam up there as well. They're going to do the report on all the findings, everything that's come together for the stakeholders. This will be made available to all the session attendees as well, but that report will be issued next week. I think we're going to do it on Wednesday, April 5th instead of the 4th because of a couple of things, but that's going to be announced at the American Legion, so we're certainly looking forward to that coming up. And I want to mention this as well. One of the things that's happened since last year, for the first time, Fastport and the other people you see on the screen, 10th Street, Task Force Movement, Transforce, et cetera, we were lucky enough for ATA to be able to host us for a veteran-ready summit. We brought in 2 days of content, a lot of speakers talking about the importance of culture within your organizations. And we did that tied around the truck giveaway that we always do at the U.S. Chamber. So we backed the schedule up a couple of days. We also had people come in. We did an ESGR signing and encouraged people to stick around and also lay wreaths at Arlington Cemetery with Wreaths Across America. So we got really good feedback on that. 10th Street put out some surveys for us. ATA has already committed to host that for us again this year at their brand new corporate headquarters. That's going to be December 13th and 14th this year. There's a QR code on your screen. You can scan that now, or you can come by our booth and talk to us if that's an event that you would be interested in attending. One thing I'm personally excited about, and we have, through a partnership with SHRM, we're going to have 2 days of content where HR professionals will be able to come in and earn a Veteran at Work certificate, and that will be totally free to the employers who attend the Vet Ready Summit. So we're certainly excited about that. And here is the email address if you want to reach out for more information specifically on task force movement. And again, I would encourage everyone here, even if you weren't involved from the beginning, the work is continuing. You probably noticed on the logo on the screen, you had task force movement, then it was task force movement for trucking. Now you see a second one, which is task force movement for cybersecurity. So this work is going to continue as other industries get involved in this. But we're proud to be a stakeholder with Task Force Movement. And with that, I want to give our panelists a chance to go down the line and talk about what are we going to see between now and this time next year, because we fully intend to be back at the Mid-America Trucking Show and talking about all the great work that we're doing together, shoulder to shoulder. I'll start with you, Nikki.
Okay, thank you. So I'll focus on two things. As Brad mentioned, the report for the Task Force Movement initiative is going to be released next week. So one of the things that we're going to have to do as the government is to take those recommendations, determine which ones that we can, pursue. So I know that there are a few things that we need to do off the bat. We need to increase our reach, increase communication, bring more, entities and stakeholders into this space. So the first thing we have to do, look at the recommendations from the report and work to implement those. And the second thing that we're going to be working on this year, and Adam mentioned the Afghan initiative. This year, we actually extended the priorities for our commercial motor vehicle operator safety training grant. So I mentioned, veterans and their families. Well, military personnel and their families are the #1 priority. We looked at underserved communities. The next group of people that we're going to prioritize to be eligible to use this money to get training, get CDL training, are those individuals from refugee communities. So that's the next priority we're going to pursue. So those are the things that we'll be working on this year.
Yeah, let me go, and because I'd like to yield some of my time to the esteemed colleague from Milwaukee here. All right. So a couple things. First of all, I don't know if we're going to get a final word, but General Davis, thanks again for taking time out of your schedule, and Nikki as well, to come here. This is important. It's important to our nation. It's important to the national security. It's obviously important to your companies right there. But so hiring our heroes has quite a few things going on. I'll start with the teaser I said. That we did the Drive for 500. We're now doing Drive for Success. You can just leave the scholarship number open. It all depends on how much funds we can raise and whatnot. We're very generous initial donation from Transforce for $500,000 to kickstart that, with some additional companies that are coming in. So if you're a company, the ask is, and you're interested, we'd love you to be part of this. As you know, the scholarships are going to good use. They're going to servicemen and women who have served, who are interested in your industry, and General Davis just described the skills and the talents that they have, so that's an easy one. So please come see me for that, and that's just another great initiative. Hiring Our Heroes does career fairs all over our military installations globally. We take many of the companies and the partners in this room that are partnered with us to come to that, to give you the access to the talent that we all know is important. We're at 58 different locations. We're going to Germany, we're going to Puerto Rico, we're going to Fort Riley, we're going to a lot of places. So if you would like to join Hiring Our Heroes in some capacity to hire military talent, that'd be great. We have fellowships and internships as well. We have some other initiatives in some skilled trades, and we have a very big, robust military spouse initiative going on. So those are the things that we're looking toward in the future, but if you'd like to be a partner, we'd love to partner with you. So thank you all very much.
General
No.
Davis, we'll let you close this out.
Yeah, well, first of all,
Take your time,
thanks.
too. Plenty of time.
Seriously? No, just a few minutes. There's a lot of things new that are going on, and I'll be happy to share that. First and foremost, and I'm sure everyone has probably seen it recently, of course, Be All You Can Be. And we're certainly is a complete rebranding for the Army. And so that is taken off about a month ago during the tournament. Hometown Hero Spotlight. What we were trying to do is really highlight those young men and women who are in uniform, wherever they are, every zip code, every town. And what we're trying to do is, instead of, because they're serving and we need them, maybe they may be deployed, but we want to highlight them and get that information. And we've created these huge, posters. They even, took a picture of me and I'm going to send it up to Milwaukee, but I'm sure I'm not I should be younger. So I said, pick somebody else. But bottom line, that's one program that we are really focused on to get back into the high schools, because it's all about the awareness and sharing, what, service is, especially in any of the services, but service to the nation is very powerful, and it will certainly help you as you continue on your journey serving this nation. And then, of course, there is the PAYS program. For that's all of the our employers out there. And again, that's the Partnership for Your Success program. So what is that? So essentially, that is, if I'm an employer, company owner, and you sign up as part of the PAYS program, as men and women transition, because remember, we bring in about 80 to 90,000 total National Guard Reserve active, and about that many transition every single year of the 1.1 million soldier force. We want them to land on your doorstep as one of your future employees. And so the PAYS program gives the soldier a menu depending on where he wants to settle down at, and the companies that are part of the PAYS program that will guarantee a job interview. And that's so very important when you're talking about that transition between 5, 6, 7 years of service and what's the next step. So those are the three big ones. We're working on a lot of different other initiatives, but it is a pleasure to be here. It's exciting to, again, share our story, but share the power of service to the Army and the nation. And then I'm your servant, and I'm here to say thanks. Thanks for your support and your investment in me over 33 plus years of service. And thanks for all that you do for our nation. So with that, I just want to say thanks. Thanks, Brad.
Yes, sir. Well, General Davis, I know you're a big car guy, so I hope you have a few minutes. Your schedule's tight. Try to visit some of the exhibits, see some of the differences in equipment you have in the military versus what's rolling down the highways. But I want to thank all of our panelists. Everybody here is busy. Again, I know I'm going to see Nikki next week. Adam's traveling all over the time. We're going to be together in Germany in a few weeks, and it's on and on it goes. But if everybody would join me in a round of applause for our panelists today. I think we have another remark.
Well, I just want to highlight, I think we have some local recruiters here. Please stand up. So they represent the 9,000. The 9,000 recruiters we have all over the world. I have recruiters in America, Samoa, Korea, Japan, all over Europe. Wherever there's a military installation, there's a U.S. Army recruiter and a recruiter in every zip code in this nation. So even in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So,
Best of the best in Kentucky, though, right?
close.
All right, again, thank you, everyone, for coming. I know we have to flip the room for the next presentation.
Thanks.
Again, thank you again to our
Thank you so
panel.
much.